I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're uncovering the incredible true story behind Midnight Train from Georgia. It's a powerful book written by Dhyana Ziegler. This captivating book chronicles the rise of Gladys Knight and the Pips, from their roots singing in a small Atlanta church to their induction in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. With family bonds, faith, and fortitude, Dhyana shares an inspiring journey from humble beginnings to musical legend. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Good River Print and Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Dhyana, great to see you here today. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Soon as I see the title of your book, I want to sing. I'm leaving on that midnight train to Georgia. It's such
That's
a great song. And I've lived in Atlanta. It's kind of an anthem of the South. What inspired you to write about Gladys Knight and the Pips?
Well, first of all, William Franklin Guest, who is a member of the Pips, is actually my brother-in-law. He's
Wow.
been in my life since I was 11 years old. So I actually lived the story. My father was a lead singer of a gospel quartet, the Morning Doves. My sister and I were dancers in New York. So we were raised in the Apollo and then just the musical and theater life of New York. And having lived that story and knowing the impact that Gladys Knight and the Pips have had on the world, I mean, you can't go anywhere where people don't know the song you sang, Midnight Train from Georgia. Midnight Train to Georgia. I played on the title by putting the from in there. And just the iconic Motown era Buddha records, the 50s and the 60s. And as you said, starting in a small church in Atlanta, so many African American singers came up through the church. But this story of coming of age, because part of it is coming of age and then coming of age into a powerful music industry. And I thought it was important. One person said to me that the book was really important because it's not only um, a, an opportunity to go down memory lane, but it's a discovery for some who did not live during that era.
Exactly. Unfortunately, now there's a whole bunch of people who didn't live in
Right.
that era, but thank goodness for Spotify because you can get on right now and listen to Gladys Knight and the Pips and discover their music for the first time. You'll feel like you're discovering gold. Have you ever seen her perform live?
Since I was a little girl.
Wow.
That's what I'm
Wow.
saying, from 11 years old. So not only, I mean, he married my sister when I was 16, but we
Okay.
were around with the groups even before they got married. My parents took us to the Apollo all the time. My sister and I, as I said, were dancers. In fact, we won the twist contest. I won for the little girls, she won for the big girls. So we grew up and music and then having them in our lives. And reading the book, you'll see where the Ziegler family, the Guest family, and the Knight family, we became one family. So we were a bridge between Atlanta and New York, and eventually when they went to Detroit and Motown, where my sister and her kids still live.
When you were writing the book and doing your research to find out a little bit more to share with the public, was there anything that really surprised you, shocked you, made you laugh, whatever the strong emotion might be?
Well, I laughed throughout. Again, I laughed all of my life. He was such a man of humor, but they were so talented. The whole on the road and the stories were all packed with humor, not only just their talents, but just the little things that they did, like at the Hotel Teresa, the first time they were that high in a building and holding on to each other, looking out the window because they were afraid. Just so many funny stories. But not only that, it's not only the humor and all of that, but just the business behind the music industry. I mean, what made them such a powerful group is that them being family, number one. So the love they had for each other, the faith, and the challenges. And when they went through these challenges, they prayed about it. They sang about it, and then they went on stage and performed together. So to have them, they were together until 1989 with just a whole spray of hits, playing all over the world, musical tracks for movies, etc. They had such a rich life, and even now, because two of them are deceased. My brother-in-law and Edward Patton are deceased. Gladys still sings, and in 23, she was honored by Kennedy Center, but they can't honor Gladys without the Pips. The group started as the Pips, so they had the Pips on stage trying to do those steps, trying to do those harmonies that nobody can do like they can do.
Right.
And and I think that just the honesty of the book and my brother-in-law telling the stories, the infidelities, and all of those things are just things that people can learn about this business and the challenges that you have. But their family and the faith, kept them together.
And the Mount Moriah Baptist Church played a role in shaping their journey as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Mount Moriah Baptist Church, and it's so funny because my brother-in-law's mother was the secretary of the church. And Mama Knight, we all call them Mama Gas, Mama Knight, Gladys's mother, they were all involved. And the father was also a singer. So they started in a gospel choir. But what happened, how they became a group, because they were all related, that at Bubba's birthday party, Merrill Bubba Knight, when he was very, very young, they had a birthday party, and a neighbor brought over a record player, but then he had to leave, so they didn't have a record player, any music. So Gladys, her sister Brenda, her brother Bubba, my brother-in-law William, and his sister Eleanor, they just started singing. And the parents realized, wow, they sound great together.
Right.
And they decided to form this group. And then the
Great.
group developed after, a couple left. And then what became Gladys Knight and the Pips when Edward Patton, another cousin, joined. And then Brenda Knight and Eleanor Guest, they went on to have family and children, and then they became Gladys Knight and the Pips, the group that we know.
Which
But
were
my
a
brother-in-law
staple.
was there from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. The group was a staple on the radio, on TV.
Everywhere.
Every variety show had Gladys Knight and the Pips. They seemed to transcend race, um,
Yes,
which
yes.
is
They were,
wonderful as well.
they played for presidents. And that's how they were as people.
Yeah.
They were in the era of when rhythm and blues and a lot of artists then moved over to pop music. They were very instrumental in helping to create that bridge. Motown had that Motown iconic sound, but when they went to Buddha, they were doing, pop songs, Neither One of Us, and all of those various hits that came from Buddha Records. And then going into film, they crossed over easily. The Dick Clark Show, Soul Train, they were on them all.
We're on
Ed
them all,
Sullivan,
yeah. And
yeah,
wonderful. Yeah, as you're talking about their songs, I get chills because I love them so. They're
yes.
part of my heritage growing up. They're the soundtrack of my life. William Guest, your brother-in-law, had an early love of music. Tell us how it influenced the group.
Well, he had that early foundation from his mother and father and uncles and stuff playing on the back porch as a little boy. So he grew up in music, and then his grandmother taught him harmony,
Mm.
singing in the kitchen. So when he and his sister went to school, in fact, he didn't even know he could play instruments. A band leader gave him a horn, and all of a sudden he started playing this horn. And then he and his sister, throughout, elementary, junior high, they just kept singing and performing even before the group came together and also singing in church. So that foundation, I mean, I don't think that he, from a little baby, did not hear music in
Yeah.
his head. Just like my nieces,
Yeah.
my niece and nephews, they grew up listening to music from little babies, just
Yeah.
just the way I did. Being on stage maybe since I was 7 in my little Catholic school doing performances. And I did have a number one song that I wrote, Time Moves On by Group Strut Disco in 1975. So,
Wow.
but somehow I went on to get a PhD. I changed sort of lanes, but I still love music and still, like to go to my guitar and piano every now and then.
You were up in New York, and Gladys Knight and the Pips were down centered around Atlanta.
Yeah, they grew up. Yeah, they grew up in Atlanta. I grew up in New York. My sister, they came to New York with Bobby Robinson as one of their first managers with Every Beat of My Heart. That
Mhm.
was a song that brought them up, and then they started playing the Apollo. Then Marguerite Mays, who was the wife of the baseball player Willie Mays, became their manager and hooked them up with Charlie Atkins, who was a famous choreographer dancer. And that sort of shaped and polished them into a real class act where they could then go on the road, and they taught them how to dance. And that's where the polishing and the, precision of steps and all of that came into play.
Yeah. Such a wonderful success story working in television and in broadcasting. I know that you can be tremendously talented and not make it. What was it about them that they were able to distinguish themselves in such a ultra competitive field?
Well, I think the unique sound of their lead singer, who became their lead singer, Gladys Knight, that sultry voice, and then the Pips harmony. It's unmatched.
Yeah.
It's unmatched. And if you look at the precisions in the dance steps, yeah, you had the Temptations, you had the Four Tops, but they were known for their precision dance steps and style. And then again, they were a classic act. If there was no nonsense, there were no scandals, there
Yeah.
was none of that associated with Gladys Knight and the Pips. In fact, this is the one movie that has not been told. Which is one of the reasons why I wrote the book too. I mean, they've had movies on the Temps, the Four Tops, Diana Ross and the Supremes. They all came up together. They were inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1996. And
Mm.
I just thought about Dionne Warwick, which is an unjust. She was just inducted. They all came up together,
Yeah.
but they were so unique in their style, in their class,
Yeah.
because also known for the suits, for the gowns, and just being such a polished act. I think that set them apart. I mean, just like the Diana Rosses and Diana Ross and the Supremes, that was something unique about that time, that there was a clear message, there was a clear goal: style, class, talent, precision, and soul.
Yeah, it was a golden age for music, like you said.
Right. Yeah,
Gladys Knight and the Pips, Aretha Franklin,
that's
Dionne
right.
Warwick, Diana Ross, The Temptations. I mean, it was just a really wonderful era.
And, being growing up in that era and being on stage in the Apollo and the Uptown, in Philadelphia and being in Detroit, it was just something special that has lived on for ages. you know, that music still lives on. So when my friend said a discovery for some, I thought about that. I mean, even the young people who don't know about Motown will still enjoy the humor and the iconic history and the culture and have some lessons learned as well about the music industry, some pitfalls, some things to do, some things not to do, and just how to survive. One thing my brother-in-law wanted to do, he wanted to give back and leave a legacy so young people will know how to navigate this business. So it is a blueprint on some of the things that you can, some of the pits
Yeah.
you can fall in, but also how you can come out and still, you know, be that good person, leave that legacy, and try to just continue to give to the world by through your life.
They continued to give right now because, like I said, their music is playing every
Yes.
minute of every day all around the world. You
Right.
put a face on the Pips, which is great as well. William Guest, your brother-in-law, and I'm sure he's so happy about that. The name of the book, folks, is Midnight Train from Georgia. It's written by Dhyana Ziegler. It is a captivating book that chronicles the rise of Gladys Knight and the Pips, from their roots singing in a small Atlanta church to their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Get on Spotify right now, turn on their music, listen to Midnight Train to Georgia and all of their wonderful hits, and then order this book. It'll be a great soundtrack as you explore another era, a simpler time, a time of people of faith and values who had a dream and made that dream come true. Dhyana, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate your time. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.